So once again, I have a couple of people with me today who are going to back me up if I cannot answer any questions that you may have. And if the backup panelists are not able to answer those questions, we definitely have a strategy in place to get the answers to your questions and get them posted on the Family First Prevention Services website that's been created through the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy. Again, Heidi's throwing the links to the presentation and all of our resources in the chat for you to peruse. So with me today, I have Anna Chalupka. She's an SSIS trainer. I have Melissa Meager, who is a physical subject matter expert. And we have the SSIS mentor coordinator, Heidi Morris. Glad to have all of the panelists here and glad to have all of you here as well. The resources that we're providing to you today is a link to the Family First Preservation Services Act website, a link to the Supervised Independent Living Services PowerPoint that I'll be going over with you today, a link to the webinar completion form that users can use to provide proof that they've attended these trainings, and then links to the policy and SSIS help desk email, which we'll go over more toward the end of our presentation today. So the information that I'm going to go over with you today, if you were part of the previous webinar, is just the SSIS portion, and it will mirror some of the screens that were shown as part of that previous webinar related to mostly the policy pieces that are being instituted for this particular type of specialized living setting known as SILS. The first slide that I want to go over with you all today is the notices that you can find in SSIS for individuals who are eligible or needing to be notified for an extended foster care option. And those are for youth who are ages 18 to 21. Over on the left-hand corner of this screenshot, you can see the notice of foster care benefits past the age of 18. This document can be created in SSIS, edited in SSIS, and then printed and sent to the youth at 17.5 years of age so that you have a 6-month period of time to start planning for what type of setting is going to be the best for them as they move forward and transition into adulthood. And then the other document that you can see more toward the bottom of that tree view is the voluntary foster care agreement for youth ages 18 to 21. What I'm going to do is provide you with a demonstration on how to locate those documents. I know the focus of our training really is that setting, but what I want to do is make sure that I'm being thorough in our SSIS environment. So I'm going to find the individual that we're going to be using today to demonstrate some of the new functionality in SSIS. Our work group, I'm going to open it in a new window. I'm going to navigate to the work group itself and to Chronology. I'm going to right click on Chronology and I'm going to create a new document. And next to the document template field, I'm going to select that search icon, which is that magnifying glass, and SSIS is going to bring up all of the documents that it has loaded within Chronology. This is a test environment, so you are going to see some unfamiliar documents over here. Pay no attention to that. I'm going to filter by group type state because this is a state created document. And then I'm going to navigate over to my category field and I'm going to travel down to the word placement. And this is going to filter all of the placement related documents that can be found in the Social Service Information System by selecting search. And hopefully I didn't confuse SSIS too much here, but okay, over here in the tree view, you can see that kind of a carbon copy of that screenshot that I had for you available in that PowerPoint. Here's that notice of foster care benefits past age 18. You can click on it in the tree view or the grid view, which has now disappeared. And then you have that voluntary foster care agreement for youth ages 18 to 21. You can create that once you verify the youth is eligible for extended foster care. And this is kind of a template of an agreement between the agency and that youth that they're going to follow the guidelines and outlines that have been worked on together between the agency and the youth while they're in that extended foster care placement. I'm going to go ahead and close out of documents, and I'm going to return to my PowerPoint. The next bit of information that I wanted to cover with individuals is notifying SSIS that the individual is going into to foster care extension. On the continuous placement itself, there is that new foster care extension tab that will appear on the continuous placement when a youth reaches the age of 17 and a half. So just to kind of go over a high level overview of that foster care extension tab, the youth is notified with the notices that I previously discussed on the previous slide. And then you're going to return to the continuous placement for that particular youth. And you're going to enter the information about extension conditions under the continuous placement, which is located under the permanency folder. And as you can see on the other screenshot located toward the bottom of this slide, workers will then need to select an extension condition, and that could be not eligible or completing a high school GED, documenting medical condition that prevents education or work, employed at least 80 hours per month, enrolled in a post-secondary or vocational education program, and participating in activities to remove employment barriers. Once the worker makes the selection from that drop-down, they're going to enter an effective date and an end date. Now, if you travel back up here to the top left screenshot, you can kind of see this other tab behind extension conditions, not very well displayed, but it's that extension review. Workers will go in there and enter information about who is reviewing this and that date for the extended foster care. The next slide I'd like to talk to you all about is related to the applicable certification chart for supervised independent living services. And this, again, is for that specialized setting related to FFPSA. So you see up in the title section of this slide that it is FFPSA related. Pretty self-explanatory, but I will provide a high-level overview here. Your setting type on your placement screen, which is underneath the continuous placement section. So it's your placements, locations, and absences folder under the permanency folder. You will indicate whether that individual is in a certified group home or residential program for SILs by selecting either group home, residential program, juvenile correctional facility, non-secure 12 or few children, and juvenile correction facility, non-secure 13 or more children. So these are going to be your setting types. And here is the screenshot of the setting on your placements, locations, and absence screen. When you put an applicable reason of supervised independent living services, under the reason, then SSIS is going to show you the acronym or initials SILS next to applicable certification. So you're loading this into SSIS under the placement screen starting September 30th, when individuals who are eligible for Title IV-E are placed in a group home or residential facility that is certified by the Department of Human Services for FFPSA. So we'll navigate back to SSIS and we will locate our participant folder. And we are going to place Cindy in a certified facility for SILS. And we're going to travel down to Cindy's permanency folder. And to save some time, I've already entered Cindy's, oops, I have to go back to documents 1 second here. SSIS won't let me proceed if I've created a document and I haven't done anything with it. So that wasn't planned for this training, but now you know. I'm going back to the permanency folder and I'm going to create the placements, locations, and absences for that applicable certification of SILS for Cindy. So I'm going to right click on the placements, locations, and absences folder and select new placement, location, and absence. And again, under the setting, we're going to place Cindy into a group home, staff operated. And then when I select that reason of supervised independent living services, watch what happens to the applicable certification field. Oops, 1 second here. Here's that supervised independent living services reason. And I'm going to put in a start date of today. And then SSIS was a little delayed, but now you see that applicable certification of SILS for that supervised independent living service setting. I'm going to go about and enter the business provider and continue to fill out all of the required information related to the placement screen, the foster parent tab, the changes, or I'm sorry, and then if ICWA were to apply, the ICWA placement preference screen. So to the purpose of this training really is to kind of highlight what to enter in the top portion of that placement, location, and absence screen for FFPSA. Another thing I wanted to touch on, and not to confuse people, but there is also supervised independent living services that are entered into SSIS as part of the continuous placement for individuals who are 18 years and to 21 years of age. And that is not related to FFPSA. So the placement setting then becomes supervised independent living. And it's followed up with a reason of safety, instability, or education, employability, aftercare, et cetera. And I don't want to butcher what policy had indicated in the previous webinar, but this type of setting is for individuals who are living in a dorm type of situation or their own apartment. It's semi-supervised. The individual will have a MAPC associated with them, and individuals in this setting will use the MAPC dollars to pay for rent, personal needs, etc. For the applicable certification of SILS, the individual is not assessed for MAPC, and the facility that the individual is placed on will receive Title IV-E dollars. And the individual is not eligible for a MAPC assessment or to receive those MAPC dollars. Another thing I'd like to talk to you all about is the applicable service plans that are located in SSIS for individuals who are 18 to 21 years old. The top left screenshot is taken from the title page of the new out-of-home placement plan for individuals who are under the age of 18. So you'd see the section name, relationship, and address, or name, relationship, and address for an individual. And just to provide some hints for you that For an individual who is under the age of 18, the relationship, for instance, like if the individual who's named over here on the left-hand side is the mother, the legal parent, the relationship that would be entered would be legal parent. However, when you transition to a youth 18 to 21 type of out-of-home placement plan, on the title page, you would list that relationship as mother versus legal parent. And there's some reasoning behind that. And that information, all of the hints related on how you enter relationships for youth under age 18, my apologies, and information for youth 18 to 21 is listed in an out-of-home placement plan document tab, job aid, that can also be found next to a previous webinar related to the new changes to the out-of-home placement plan. And as you are all aware or may not be aware, but now are aware, individuals who are aged 14 to 21 who are in out-of-home placement, when the out-of-home placement plan is generated, the independent living plan will also be included. So this screenshot really is just going over information related to what that independent living plan navigation field looks like. You're going to select the applicable goals for that individual youth as you create this independent living plan, as you travel down this navigation pane. The title page of the independent living plan is similar to the out-of-home placement plan, but does include additional information. It starts out with information, demographic information related to that individual here in the grid view up at the top. And then you workers can check the different types of assessments that were used or aided in developing the plan. And any other assessments that might not be listed here. Then youth included these individuals on the case planning team. You would include the individuals who are on the case planning team, obviously, and case planning team members designated to advocate for the application of prudent parenting. That information can be filled out within this field. One thing I do want to note is that when the youth turns 17 and a half, the field associated with this question is enabled. This field is not enabled for youth younger than 17 and a half years of age. So when the youth turned 17 and a half, the agency advised all parties of the availability of benefits of the foster care program past age 18. You can select yes or no, and then the date that that was provided. And then explain any reasons for why the notice wasn't sent, if that is the case in your scenario. And then all of the required parties that were that received the notice, you can indicate that here on the title page as well. There is a specific goal for planning and for housing, or planning for housing, excuse me, on the independent living plan, with several sections outlined to help develop a plan for how the youth is currently living, as well as some goals they may wish to work on for future types of housing situations. Once again, here is a link to our Family First Prevention Services Act webpage, just to kind of go over the functionality again. You're going to navigate to minnesotachildwelfaretraining.com, and we are located under this More tab under Family First Prevention Services. And then here's that contact information. If you should have any questions regarding residential service requirements, you can email the foster care unit here in Child Safety and Permanency. If you have questions regarding prevention service requirements, you can email the safety unit here in Child Safety and Permanency. And then if you're an SSIS mentor and you have questions about training materials or need assistance with SSIS functionality, you may email the help desk with this email handle here. I was just notified that next week on October 6th, there's going to be another added webinar related to Title IV-E claiming. Information will go out as soon as possible once I get information back from the trainers and panelists who want to put that together. I will send that out via a mentor blast with Heidi and try to locate other marketing streams to get that information out. So mark your calendars for October 6th between 1 and 3 to go over some of the Title IV-E claiming pieces. Let's check our chat here and see if we have any related questions to today's webinar. I don't see anything in the Q&A. If you all have questions regarding SSIS and the SILS, Supervised Independent Living Services specialized setting for FFPSA, please feel free to ask those now. Again, last week I did touch on how to locate facilities that are certified to provide these types of specialized services, whether they be sex trafficked, PPY, pregnant and parenting youth, and this new added SILS, as well as QRTP. You can find those in your licensing lookup when you look under residential facilities. You can also locate these specialized settings as they come on board with these different types of certifications within SSIS itself. And just want to show that really quick again before we adjourn. Under your searches and logs menu option up here in your Windows menu toolbar, you would navigate down to the Title IV-E group provider search. And there's been a new column that's been added. So for instance, if we look for child residential facility and we search, as we navigate down the page, all the way kind of down here to the bottom, we have a services provided field that's added. That's where you're going to see those applicable certifications of PPY, sex traffic, or CSE, or this newly added SILS specialized service as well. Again, you can find links to the information provided to you today in this webinar in the chat. And once again, I want to thank all of the mentors and all of the SSIS users out there for bearing with us over the last 2 months as you have been given an opportunity to attend 10 different webinar sessions for Family First. Some information was threaded throughout, some information was new. We look forward to see you in future webinars. And again, please, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the individuals associated with this contact information. Other than that, go forth and conquer, and thank you so much for all you do, and we'll see you back next time.